Welcome to the Permission Slip podcast, where I, empowerment coach, mindset expert, and holistic nutritionist Carmen share with you the tools, conversations, and resources you need to write your own permission slip, take massive action, and become obsessed with your own life. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Permission Slip podcast, and I'm so excited. We are doing the first roundtable of 2024 with Belinda Rosenblum and Shannon, and we are talking about all things how to make your first million, and specifically the tactical, the systems, and the mindset shifts that you need to make in order to get there. So let's go ahead and dive right in with some quick questions to get to know our roundtable guests, and we will start with Shannon today. So first question, just to get to know you a little bit, is where did you grow up?
I grew up just outside of Boston in a town called Reading, Massachusetts.
Boston. And now where do you live now? And tell us about your community, your people around you.
I live in Guanacaste, Costa Rica, which, is super fun. Actually, we have a home in Connecticut as well, which is where my husband grew up. But we spend most of our time down here. And a little bit about our community. We have a tight-knit community of locals and expatriates that live here. And such a really diverse group of people and so many stories. It's like a whole week full of old war stories, literal and figurative, from folks who live down here. So never a dull moment.
I love that so much. That's on my list of places to visit. I have not yet visited. So if I was to visit one place there in Costa Rica, what would you recommend?
Oh, no, don't make me do that. Don't make me pick that. I would say my personal favorite is Lake Arenal and La Fortuna, where you can go actually hike the volcano and you can see the lake and you can go to the hot springs and you go to the rainforest. It's like everything you need in one trip.
That sounds beautiful. I love it. Okay, I wrote that down. And tell us, what did you have for breakfast?
Oh gosh, what did I have for? I made my own like breakfast egg wraps this morning with salsa, cheese, and eggs and a tortilla.
Any special tortilla? I like the details. So part of what I do is I'm a holistic life coach. So I like to ask about all the things, right? It's taking care of ourselves, it's eating, it's meditating, it's working out, it's business, it's mindset, it's finances. Any certain tortilla that you like to use?
Gosh, I can pretty much say, I won't say no to nearly any tortilla, but my personal favorite is homemade corn tortillas.
Yeah, we got this like purple corn flour, to use to make tortillas, and we've been making them over the past couple of weeks here at home. They're so delicious, and so easy because it's just that and want 2 ingredients, and you can make your own tortillas at home. So I think people make it so hard. What is one life skill that you think that every leader or entrepreneur should learn?
Pattern recognition.
Tell us like a little snippet of that, and then they can go down the Google rabbit hole.
Yeah, so I fundamentally believe that if you can recognize patterns, you can make decisions faster. You can identify when things need to change, and you can identify when to pivot. So I think that when you can pick up on patterns, meaning that certain behavior stacked together equals this outcome, or notice that things are trending a certain way. And I don't just mean the numbers, I don't just mean the finances. I mean like that if I keep doing this is what's going to happen. And the sooner you can identify that, the more you're going to get out of your life, your business, or whatever it is you're trying to accomplish.
So powerful. We talk a lot about things like that on the podcast, and attachments. I think that goes hand in hand with that. Did you set a word or intention for 2024?
I did.
Can you share?
I did, and it is simplify.
What does that mean to you? Is that a focus in your business or personal?
It's a little bit of both, but I would articulate it as doing less on purpose. So actually resisting the urge to do more, thinking more is more, and actually focusing on the less that I want to sign myself up for, but accomplishing more in each small goal as opposed to accomplishing a little across multiple. So simplifying it and really focusing is really a key objective of mine for 2024.
Wow. Have you been in my head or listening to the podcast? Because that's one of my intentions. Well, it's not my word. My word is significant for the year 2024, but one of my intentions is really to simplify things, really focusing in on that 20%. My last question is, can you share with us a self-care practice that you can't live without?
Oh, it would be my walks up the mountain here in Costa Rica. It's like every single time I walk up there, it's about an hour-long walk, and it's only about a mile, but it is basically straight uphill. And I walk up there and I get to see a view of the whole town. And every single time it tests me mentally. Every single time I go, I could turn around. And every single time I'm usually listening to a book or a podcast, and it's really where I happen to digest the information really well. And I always leave in a better mood.
I would love that so much. And I know what you mean when you're going to go do something challenging and your brain, you're recognizing that pattern, right? That your brain is going to talk you out of it every time, that when you push through, that it's just going to be the best at the end. So How wonderful. Well, welcome to the roundtable. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for allowing me to ask a few questions to get to know you. And we'll switch on over to Belinda, and you can share with us, where did you grow up?
I grew up in New York. Thanks. I I was like laughing along the way when Shannon was going. I was like, I'm just gonna mute so I don't get any background noise. Yeah, I grew up in New York, and funny, I forgot about the New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts connection with Shannon, but I grew up in Westchester and in New Rochelle, and then I went to college in Boston. And then, which gets to your next question, which is where do I live now? So now I live in the Boston area, not that far from where Shannon grew up. So yeah, so funny. And I actually own property in Guanacaste, Costa Rica, not that far from where Shannon is now. So like a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh.
I know, you gotta love it.
So in my community, nothing's a coincidence. I think everything is just a divine appointment. And so we always say, of course, that happened. Thank you. More, please. So of course, that happened. Thank you. More, please. I love to have meaningful connections. And for all the listeners, they know that my intention for these podcasts is twofold, so they can get some great new guests and learn new tools and resources and make an impact for them, but also for both of you. And I didn't know in advance that you guys knew each other. And so it's been fun for that connection. It just goes to show how small the world is, but also how important it is to make connections in the community that you're serving. So I loved that you guys knew each other. So next question is, tell us what you had for breakfast.
I had a smoothie, a strawberry smoothie. I you talk about like patterns and habits. So I started about a year ago with as like a challenge, like a fruit till noon. So I only eat fruit until 12 p.m. And so I basically have a smoothie every morning, and that's it. And it's just it's kind of like intermittent fasting, but I couldn't go without anything until noon. So this way it's just like super light on my system, and it's really helped. Like I don't get like lulls in energy. It like helps my all the systems, all the body systems by not weighing it down with a heavy breakfast in the morning. Yeah.
So it's just fruit, like not milk, no peanut butter, no protein powder, anything. It's just like fruit.
Most of the time, it's like just a smoothie. It may have like spinach in it or like other things like that, but it's usually just something super pure and like fruit or vegetable based. Sometimes I might do an acai bowl. I might put like I'm not like a strict person about it. Like if I have an acai bowl and they put some peanut butter on it, I'm like, more please. Like, so it's totally fine. But on a regular basis, like what I did this morning, got up, did the Peloton, had my smoothie, was at my desk. That's my morning.
I love that. Do you find that your digestion was better?
Totally. That's kind of what I was getting to without saying. But I feel like, so I had my gallbladder out years ago, and that just sort of like messes with your system. And so I feel like I have to take a little extra care of it all. And yeah, so that has definitely helped.
Yeah. No, we talk about things like pooping on the podcast, so it's totally fine. And since you don't have a gallbladder, you can't really process heavy fat as much. So that's probably why it's such a great option for you.
Keep it light.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, keep it light. Keep it light and fresh. What is one life lesson that you think every leader entrepreneur should learn?
Oh, a life lesson. That our circumstances don't control us. And it's I think so much of the time there's this idea of like life is happening to us, and I'm much more of someone who feels like the cause, right? So it's more like life is happening for us or life is happening by us. And I think from like a life lesson, I think of like a philosophy almost. And so I'm much more somebody who will not feel like a victim to the circumstance. I mean, literally, it's like I named the company Own Your Money, because I feel like so often people feel owned by it. They feel owned by their circumstances or lack of circumstances. And it's like, hey, how can instead you take responsibility for it in a way that actually feels like it is empowering you to have the level of success you want, to have the level of wealth you want, right? To create what you want, no matter what your parents did or your grandparents or like how you grew up around it. And instead, how do we take responsibility? And it's one of those things that I think responsibility has always gotten a bad rap. And so I really look to make responsibility as sexy, fun, and cool as we thought irresponsibility would be, right? But instead, it's like that line from Spider-Man where he says like, with great power comes great responsibility. And I believe with responsibility comes great power, right? To kind of flip it on its head a little bit, right? To kind of say like, hey, when you can take responsibility for the life that you want to live, it is a very powerful place to be, because you never feel like you have to blame somebody else or complain about it, but you actually feel like the cause of the life that you want to have.
That's so powerful. I love that word, responsibility. One of the things that I truly believe is that it's the disciplines and systems and the responsibility that you're taking for your own life that actually creates the freedom that everybody desires. It's not the other way around. So
Amen.
That's so powerful. And and how beautiful, like owning your money too. Something Shannon and I were talking about before we even started recording was her mission statement of your business finances should be a source of inspiration, not intimidation. And that goes right back to what you're saying, is like when you take responsibility, then you can feel really good about it, and you're making the choice. I think all too often that saying of life's not happening to you, it's happening for you. We forget about the third part, which is like if we choose, we have to choose it. We have to choose to look at it like that. So wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. How about your word or intention for 2024?
Courage. It's really about being brave, being courageous, being more visible. I feel like I've been doing this for 16 years, and I still feel like there's a whole nother level of visibility, of tapping into my passion. And it's so fun that this is what we're talking about today, because I've had this inner drive recently to be helping women, especially moms, to be able to feel like they can create $1 million businesses and take care of their family. Because I noticed it starting with me, but I noticed it with a lot of our students and clients, how when they're bumping up against that income ceiling or whatever that next level is, often there's heightened fear of what they will lose in the process, right? And so I felt like instead of me feeling scared about it myself, how can I instead role model what's possible to be the $1 million business owner and feel like a great mom and take care of my family? So yeah, for me, it's about being brave, putting myself out there in bigger and bigger ways. And yeah, I'm here for it. I don't know what it's gonna look like. I'm sure there'll be some terrifying moments, but I'm doing it anyway. And I'll keep talking. So I was just I was just at an event, and I had an opportunity to meet some women who were talking about selling their business. One woman who even sold hers for over $250 million. And I went up to her at the end, and she has like a challenging story in terms of through that success, like getting a divorce, boys, son in rehab, and all those things. And I said, I think sometimes we make it seem like it's all unicorns and rainbows as you grow, right? Like now you have all this extra cash and you can like fund all this help, but that there's real life. I don't say balance because I feel like balance is BS, but it's really like finding the harmony where you get to be the mom that you want to be and the business owner that you get to be. And she agreed to come on a series or an IG Live with me. And I was like, that would be amazing. She only has a few million followers, but it's also that I want to help tell her story. So anyway, I'm glad you're back, Carmen.
Congratulations to that.
Yeah. But it's all living into the brave. You know what I mean? It's all living into the courage and role modeling that for our students.
Being courageous. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, and congratulations, because I was going to ask like how you were going to be more visible. So that's awesome. We can't wait to see that on Instagram. So what is one self-care practice that you can't live without?
I'd like to say I do it every day, not quite every day, but I'm moving my body. Like I became a Peloton user in like October 2020 amidst the pandemic. And I literally did it every single day for like 500 days or something like that. Like from October through February, a year, and 4 months later, because I needed something to help me get through just the isolation and the challenge that I was in when everything was going on with the pandemic. And then since then, I still make it a regular practice, usually just to make sure I get something done in the morning to feel like there's more to my life and the growth and just like sitting at my desk all day, but that I actually make myself move because I don't have a commute. I don't have a mountain in my backyard to go climb, like I did when I was in Costa Rica. But that I just make myself like move my body. Actually just got this Aura ring to help me track my movement and activity and sleep and all the things so I think part is movement and the other part is sleep. So I have gotten really diligent about tracking my sleep, getting sleep. Like even if I have to stay up for some reason until 1 o'clock, I will sleep till 9. Like I really do my best to get 7.5 to 8 hours every night because I saw like how I would be showing up as a shadow of myself, like as a lesser version of myself when I wouldn't be sleeping, like when I would feel like, oh, I had to get this work thing done, or I had to get back to this student or client. And I was sacrificing myself at the altar of my business. And so I feel like it's been the 1-2 punch of the movement and making sure I'm getting adequate sleep that really helps me show up as my best.
I agree. Sleep 100%, 8 hours every night. And I like to go to sleep and wake up at the same time, if at all possible, because that really helps with all your circadian rhythms and all of that. So thank you so much, and welcome to the podcast. And thank you for being a part of this roundtable. And we can dive right into more of what everybody wants to hear about making their first million. And so high level, what would you say high level if someone was like, 30 seconds, 1 minute, what does it take to get to $1 million? Belinda, do you want to answer that first if you're going to do high level? And then
I'm like 30 seconds. If it was 30 seconds, we'd all be millionaires. Right? $1 million businesses, right? That's like saying, it's like the dummy's guide to making $1 million. Have great offers that people already want to buy with a following. Oh, look at that. But to think through, right? First off, you want to know, I'm assuming we're talking $1 million revenue level, right? We're not talking $1 million to us. So we think about $1 million revenue. We think about I think it's a combination of who do we need to be, right, to lead that $1 million business? And then how do we make sure that we have the right offers, right, that are going to help us create $1 million in revenue? A lot of times, particularly for newer, aspiring and newer business owners, the right place for them to start is in unscalable offers, right? It is in one-to-one, dial in your methodology, dial in your messaging. How do you help people get great results? And then we can figure out group. I think sometimes people start group too soon before they actually have really good results, before they really know the methodology that they want to teach, right? So I think that's the right thing at the lower level. And then as you keep going, you don't want your offers to be the thing that holds you back from scaling, right? And so then we have to make sure that we have offers. Like literally, if you did the math of I have this offer for this dollar amount. I want this number of people in. We need to figure out that business model that could even achieve $1 million, because a lot of times people don't even have scalable offers. Right. So that's the second thing, right? So it's who do you need to be, right? Do you have the right offers? Do you have the right underlying money systems? Right. So that you can grow. I can't tell you how many people I know will intentionally hold themselves back because they don't feel like a good steward of the money. They feel like they're kind of a mess behind the scenes. And so they don't, it's like you're trying to build an empire, like a skyscraper on sand, and they're wondering why they're not growing. And it's because it's sinking. It's because they don't feel confident in bringing in more money into their business. And then the last piece is your support system. So, this is one of those things that I feel like if you can achieve your dream on your own, your dream isn't big enough. And if your dream is $1 million in revenue, this is not something that I want you to be working 28/7, trying to achieve on your own, but to realize that actually it's the support system that you have between the team, a coach, likely a community that's really going to help rise you up and keep you there. This is our whole like cash flow CEO system, because I feel like those 4 elements actually are the foundation to grow you from 50 to 250, 250 to 500, 500 to $1 million plus. Right. And as a piece of that, as a piece of the understand the offers, I don't want to go without saying this before we move on, is that you need to, and as a part of the money system, yes, it's revenue, but it's also being able to manage your expenses and manage your profit to a profit plan. I think that way too often we leave our profitability to chance, like to hope, and it just becomes this like happy accident. Oh, I made money. Yay. Right. But actually, if you're going to scale to the revenue level of $1 million, we want to make sure that it is a profitable business for you, right? That is actually paying you what you want, that it is actually sustainable. Because a lot of times revenue can just be a vanity number. If you're making $1 million, but it's costing you $1.1 million to make it, you're in $100,000 of debt. Newsflash, right? So it's not just the revenue number. I also want to make sure that you have thought through, how do you create a profitable, sustainable, aligned business?
We'll just say I'm feeling pretty called out right now because I'm really good at making money, but I'm also equally good at spending money. So thank you for that. And I can't wait to dive into some of those other key pieces that you talked about, like who we need to be. Shannon, would you have anything that you wanted to add to that?
I couldn't do it in 30 seconds. So like if you need 3 minutes, like
I can layer onto that with, I love the concept of who, not how. So I really focus on like the who I need to be, but also who I need to have. So to Belinda's point, the support system, but I'm going to layer on with self-awareness, because you should know what you're good at and what you're not good at. If you know that, you'll have a much easier time figuring out what's a hell yes and a not now. Hell yes, hell no, and a not no. And that's a really big step, is just knowing what you should be focused on and being able to manage yourself a little bit better and being able to know what to delegate sooner rather than later. I would say if you're going to get to $1 million, you're going to have a team. So it's being focused on what type of culture you want to build around what values and who you attract. Because as important as having an offer that attracts the right ideal customer, you need to have a company that attracts your ideal team that's going to help serve your mission. Like Carmen said, it's my mission in my company is we are here to make financial information a source of inspiration, not intimidation. If someone on my team does not fundamentally believe in that mission, then they're really not going to be that excited about serving the community that we do, and they may not be a good fit. So it's really about understanding where they're at and how you can help them achieve their goals as well. And then finally, connection and network. This, who do you need to know externally that can help you when you need something, a mentor? Who do you know that's actually in the weeds with you, that's also struggling with stuff that you can call on? But also, who can you dial into to help you sell your stuff? And I don't mean necessarily literally. I mean, who are the clients you've had in the past that can speak highly of you, that can give you testimonials, that you can call on for recommendations, or that when you're selling a book or you're selling an offer, you can be like, hey, will you share this? Will you email your list? So I think that you can't get to $1 million selling by yourself. And you don't necessarily need an internal sales team that's out doing cold calls, but you need people who are going to be advocates for you. So I would say those are the big things that I would focus on.
I would say yes to all of that as well. I love that so much. And as we continue to dive into this, I'd love to hear, as we talk about the who do I need to be piece, what are the really key mindset shifts that you believe that entrepreneurs really need to have? And maybe even sharing one of your biggest mindset shifts. Because I think all too often when people hear you talk, like you're the expert, you're the leader, all of that, but they have to know, like, we go through mindset shifts and roadblocks and personal growth as well too. So what are some of those mindset shifts that you really believe that that entrepreneurs need to make in order to get to their first million, Shannon? And was there something specific for you to really scale and grow your business to the level that it was at?
Yeah, I think that for most people, and most people who are probably listening to this may need to hear that, I mean, action cures nearly everything. So if you are stuck, if you're confused, if you feel like you're in analysis paralysis, I go out and serve. Belinda mentioned it before that like you have to go out and prove your concept. I think you could have like the prettiest freaking website in the world that took you forever, but like prioritize working on the things that will make the impact and serving your ideal customer. That will do all the work for you. If you just get out there and start serving with the problem you're here to solve, everything else will kind of trickle down from there. You don't have to spend so much time building the nice package that it comes in. And I think that's a really big mindset shift, because it's like all the stuff that's really fun. I guess the blunt way to put it, and I will admit I was victim of this too, is your business is not here to entertain you. It is not about doing, you are not here to do the fun stuff. Some of it's fun. A lot of it's mucky. You got to do all of it to get through on the other side and to get really successful. I think people get jaded or get a misconception from what they see on social media that like running a business is walking around a clean, beautiful home, filming reels and like, you know, getting to work out every day. Admittedly, Belinda and I are both like, yeah, not every day. We can't do it every day. Sometimes we're up till midnight working, and that is okay. That is part of the process. But like, you have to, you're not going to be able to delegate everything from day one. You're going to go through and do some stuff you don't enjoy. It's part of the process. You don't have to enjoy every single minute of it for it to be rewarding.
That's so important. So important. Because I think all too often people will give up or they won't. They'll do the things half-assed. And then they're not making the impact that they truly want to make. And they'll think like, oh, but I'm doing all the things.
Yeah.
But are you really? Yeah.
Well, they're busy.
Sharing. How about you?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a difference between busy and actually doing the needle moving tasks that really make a difference.
Right. The revenue generating, profitable activities. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I love what you shared, Shannon, because I will say all the time, like, it's action that brings the clarity. Like, we think that, okay, we'll just sit in our office, in my case, dining room turned home office, and we'll get all the answers that we need. But no, it's in serving that and doing and asking and all of those things that we often gain the clarity that we need. I think the mindset shifts, a couple of things came to mind. One are some around money. And I think that people have a lot of fears around like money itself. Like they think like, oh, money can't be learned, profit can't be planned. I can just outsource it all to my bookkeeper, and like, I think that there's this piece of like, I'd rather do those other fun things than look at my money. And I think from a fundamental mindset shift, I want people to realize that actually the CEO understands how to plan and prioritize profit. As you get over, I think of it around 500K, and Shannon, this is when people would hire Shannon, for instance, and her company, right, to help do that planning. Is it around 500 that you find that people bring in like a fractional CFO or something like that often?
Yeah, north of 500. It's more about what they're keeping of that money, right? Because you could be making 500 and have a loss and not be able to afford any help at that point. So it's really about like, I would say a healthy 500K to 750K is when people are, I think 500K, you can hire us. 750, you're kind of hungry for us. Like it's when you really, when you're trying to break through that ceiling into the seven figures for sure.
Right. And then you want the help doing the planning, and you want to like stop tipping the IRS, right? You want to like feel like you're really minimizing the taxes that you're paying if you're that healthy 500K business. But until then, I'm really teaching people how they can DIY those CFO services, right? That they understand how they need to be able to plan and prioritize, and that we can't just leave it to the bookkeeper, because I think that we forget that they're just tracking what already happened, and that we need to know, what do we want to make happen? What do we want to sell? What do we want to charge, right? How do we actually run a profitable business? And how do we let like an understanding of the money help drive the important decisions that we need to be making in our business? And we try and do them like blindfolded a lot of times, right? Because it's like, we don't really understand the profitability. And just give a lesson today in our cash flow CEO program about profit. Like, what is profit? What is profit not? And people are like, yeah, I know my revenue, but I never really thought through what my profit is. And I'm like, well, that's important, right? Like, that's why you're here. And so it's an ownership, right? It's recognizing that you as the CEO needs to know your numbers and needs to be able to build on that, to like build not just your revenues, but also your profits and scale your business. So I think fundamentally there's a money related shift kind of on that responsibility front, right? But realizing, hey, if I want to call myself a CEO, I have to be willing to dig into the numbers. I know sometimes it's a little bit of like the tough truth, right? But like, once you know it, it's actually very empowering. So like, let's start there. And then I think there's this whole other side around, it's kind of related to that action idea. It's like, we need to take action even if we're scared. Right. And it's like, do the things. Like, I even think that the more scared I am, the more important it probably is that I do it. Right. Because there's probably something really big on the other side for me. But that we realize that as you grow, just more and more becomes a little scary. It's just bigger. You know what I mean? There's like more zeros, more things come at stake. And the fear doesn't totally go away. I kind of feel like we have this idea, oh, once I get to 100K, I'm just going to be smooth sailing. Like, that's it. It'll be easy. Then I'll scale to 500. Then I'll scale past that. But to realize that you're going to keep facing the fear. I don't need to quote the book, face the fear and do it anyway. But it's kind of like, accept that fear is a part of the life and the business that you want to grow. And that's why my word is brave, right? And like living with courage, because I feel like that's what I want to be. And that's what I want to role model, because I feel like that is essential to embrace as you want to keep scaling.
So a couple of things that you said there that I'd want to dig into is, you said really knowing the numbers and understanding what profit is. So if I'm just starting my business, or maybe I have hit the 100,000 mark and I really need to know my numbers and I need to stop outsourcing it to my bookkeeper and just hoping, what are those specific numbers that I need to know? What do you suggest there, Belinda?
Yeah. So a couple of things. I think that it is helpful to have a bookkeeper to be tracking. Like, don't get me wrong, right? There, especially as you're crossing that 50, 100K mark, most of my people are creative service providers, like money might not be your forte. Totally cool, right? But the point is that you need to look at the numbers that the bookkeeper is providing you, or that your spreadsheet is showing you. And there are way too many people that will only look at their numbers for their tax accountant, like for giving it to the accountant. So then maybe in January, they'll be like, well, I just gave them a whole couple envelopes full of stuff. Or what else did I hear recently? Like, that's a really good question. I don't know. I'm behind 4 or 5 months in my tracking. Then I'm like, kind of like, well, how do you run your business? And then people think that Stripe is a tracking system, but it's not. It's just a payment processor, right? And then particularly if you're getting money from PayPal and from Stripe and other places, again, that's when people are like running their business blindfolded. So at a minimum, you want to know revenue. In my book, you want to know it by revenue stream. Again, you need to get a little bit more detailed. Stripe will just be like, you made $8,000, but you as the business owner and your bookkeeper, honestly, because your tax account only needs total revenue, but you as the business owner want to make sure that you have it broken out by revenue stream. Because that's really important for you to know what's selling. What are people buying? Right? What do I want to do more of? What am I not making a lot of money of, but it's taking a lot of effort? Maybe let me not do that as much because that's going to be a lower profit offer for you, right? So revenue by revenue stream, expenses, at least by major category, and your accounting profit. And then from that accounting profit, you want to know, what am I taking as owner's compensation? What am I setting aside for taxes? Ideally in a separate tax account. And do I have any debt or other things like that I need to be paying off? Some people still have loans from all of the, pandemic funding. And so we want to make sure that we're on top of the numbers. Now, the distinction that I do for our cash flow COs is, yes, you want to know what already happened, but you also want to know what's contracted to happen in each of those items, right? That's where that plan is so helpful. I call it a profit plan because it's revenue, expenses down to profit. But you want to know what's contracted. Like if you have a 6-month payment plan, you want to see how much money people are going to be paying you in the future. Because emotionally, we often feel like every month we're starting back at zero, but oftentimes we're not, because we do have people on a 3-month plan or 6-month plan, or whether it's one-to-one coaching or, they bought a course that they're paying for over time, right? So you want to know contracted. And then lastly, you want to set projected for yourself. So you want to decide, what do I want to make each month, right? And like in revenue. And then the way that I do it, and I'll end because I'm sure Shannon has her own ideas on, numbers that we need to know. Hopefully there's a lot of overlap there, but that my theory is decide what you want to pay yourself and then make sure that we can reverse engineer the revenue that you're making to allow for what you want to pay yourself. I can't tell you how often people are doing the two separate. So they set a revenue goal and then they have an idea in their head of what they want to pay themselves, but they don't actually connect the two. That's why we have our pay yourself calculator that at least starts to connect the two for you, that says, what should my revenue goal really be so that I can take home what I want? Okay.
I love that. Something I heard you say before, Belinda, was not using your business as your checkbook or your wallet or something like that. And so I think that applies here too with what you were just saying. And I love that you were talking about having the plan or the forecast. And I want to hear what you have to add to this, Shannon. But my question along with that to you, Shannon, or both of you, is what I do is just like an Excel spreadsheet, and I forecast out all of the income that I'm contracted and or projected to make based on my offers that I'm offering, because we want to have those offers. And then I already know what my expenses are going to be pretty much based off of my operating expenses for my website or all the things that I do, and my contracted employees that I have. And so then I can actually see where maybe I need to decrease in expenses or do another launch or offer something different. Is that what you're talking about? Like having a plan like that? Yeah.
Yes, generally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that like a lot of people try and run their business just literally based on their bank account balance. And that just changes moment to moment based on like what's been drawn out. And it creates a very reactive way to run a business. So when you have a plan, like what you just described, right, where you have it by revenue stream, you have it by month, then you can be so much more intentional about your revenue creation. Mm-hmm. So like I had one student and he looked at it and he was like, August is historically our worst month ever, right? We just know that's coming. We're bracing ourselves. We're earning more in June to cover us for August. And I was like, or what could we offer so that August could actually be a really good cash flow month for you? But you can't even make those sort of decisions until you can see it, like mapping out by month. Almost think of it like a map, like if you want to get from Boston to California, like you need a map. So this is kind of your map to get you from January to December to reach your goals.
Okay, thank you. I'm on the right track then, though. And then I go in and I look and see what the actual was based on, and look at what I had projected and make decisions from there. What would you add to that, Shannon?
So there's a couple of things. Number one, Belinda hit on this, which is please don't manage from your bank account balance, because that is like we're judging your overall health by what you weigh today. Okay. That is like judging your overall health by what you weigh this morning. And that is a one-time thing. You could literally get off the scale, go have a sandwich, you weigh something different. So it is a second snapshot and not meant to judge your overall health. If somebody said to you, I weigh 100 and whatever pounds, I'm not gonna say a number because but like 100 whatever pounds, and someone's like, oh my God, that's not healthy. It's like, it's all subjective. Also, it changes constantly. And if someone said that about themselves and said, I'm not healthy because I weigh this, everybody around them would be like, you're crazy. You shouldn't say that. And I go, y'all are all doing it as business owners every day, going like, I'm great. I got money. And like, right now you do. The IRS is coming in a couple of months. But the thing is, here's the thing. Belinda hit on 90%. Like, I agree with everything she said. And it's like filling up my cup 90%. And the one thing I would layer on top of that, on the foam on top of the latte, is that so revenue minus expenses equals profit. Number one, revenue minus expenses equals profit. That is, for me, revenue and expenses are two dimensions of business. The third dimension is timing, which is what cash flow injects into it. So what most people do is you have a simple two-dimensional, think like flat piece of paper, which is revenue minus expenses equals profit. I am profitable. Yes, you are. However, if you are collecting that income slowly over time and you are paying those expenses prepaid out, you have not so fantastic cash flow. And cash flow is really adding that third dimension of timing. So I think what a lot of business owners not get wrong, but they completely disregard when it comes to planning out their money, is they think, oh, I'm getting a great deal by prepaying for this software, or, oh, I'm going to offer a payment plan, but I'm not going to charge them more. And I go, oh, well, here's the thing though, you're sacrificing time, which is one of the biggest things that you want to keep track of, is how much money you're bringing in over a period of time, because you could actually be insanely profitable and you could run out of money because of this bad cash flow. And what we also have to consider in these forecasts, but most people don't, is you have your revenue, expenses, your profit from operating your business. But then you have to account for, am I paying back loans? Am I taking money out for personal expenses and just making distributions, we call it, or paying yourself? Because you're depleting the cash balance down that's available to spend on business expenses. So what people don't realize is they're taking money out of the account. They see that there's a profit, but there isn't any cash in the bank account. And they go, why is that not the same thing? It's not the same thing. So your bank account just because you're profitable doesn't mean you have cash in the bank, and vice versa. So you have to be really careful about how you're judging your own business and measuring its overall financial health based on spot metrics. You want to have a holistic understanding of how good is my cash flow and how good is my profitability, because they're not necessarily synonymous.
I 100% agree with the timing. I love that you added that, because the work that I do offer payment plans, and I'm paying for things out of pocket. Like when I host an event or whatever, you have to do 25-50% deposit at the venue, and then I'm allowing people to do payment plans. So interesting. I've never thought of it like that, but that is so important. So important.
I think, can I add one quick thing to that too? I feel like it's why we don't need to like feel bad when we're charging a bit of a premium on a payment plan.
Exactly.
I think that sometimes people, I don't want it to be like horrific. I think the people who charge like 30%, like that's too much, right? Even 20% is a lot. But for you to charge a bit of a premium, and I say it like that because I think sometimes, like, let's say it's a $1,000 program, people are like, okay, I'll just do 4 payments of $250. Well, then there's no incentive for somebody to be paying all at once, right? Because it's the same amount. So for you to charge $300 or $350 times 4 payments, so that there's a little bit of a premium for you to kind of serve as their bank over that period of time, right? And then you don't get that cash. And on the flip side, they get an incentive, a benefit for paying you all at once. And it's less processing for you and all that. So you're willing to give them the benefit. So yeah. It sort of speaks to that point, right? The timing is really important. And sometimes I'll see people getting their businesses into debt because they don't actually understand the numbers in their business. And so they'll see money in the bank account or they'll see profit, and then they'll think, oh, I can just take that out. That's why, especially for the newer business owners, you have to separate personal business, period. Full stop, right from the beginning. Set up a separate business bank account, ideally a separate credit card, or whatever you need to make sure that there's a separation of church and state, because the more that you commingle it, the harder it gets to disentangle it, right? And then to really understand the profitability of your business. But at least if you have a separate business bank account, you can see, okay, this month, we brought in revenue of, an income synonymous of $5,000, and we spent $2,000 in expenses. We have $3,000 of profit there. But if you take out $4,000, because that's what you need to pay your own personal bills, you will put your business in debt. And so many people feel bad because their business has debt. But oftentimes, especially in the first few years, it's because you pulled too much out. The business didn't have it to give. Does that help explain things? That's why that timing thing is really so important, because, and especially if you look at the bank account and one day when that payment came in, the amount is in there. That's that moment to moment, right? But then all of a sudden you pay something and then it's not there anymore, right? And then that's absolutely how people land in debt and then feel bad that their business is creating debt. But actually it's that they didn't calculate how much revenue do I need to make so I can pull out what I need from the business.
Okay, so we need to know our revenue. We need to know our offers so that we could do our projections for the year of our income and expenses. And then we need to be tracking each and every month and not getting behind on our revenue and expenses and our profit, and not just pulling money out because there's money in the bank account, and using it and having a plan for how much we're going to make. Linda, I think you have a cool calculator for that I've used before, your pay yourself calculator on your website. So we need to stick to that plan and not just be pulling money out. So let's say, we're doing pretty good. Maybe we just hit our first 6 figures. What are the I really know that disciplines and systems bring freedom in our life. So what are like the disciplines and systems that we need to have to start scaling like to that next level, to be able to get to $1 million? If maybe I have QuickBooks, I don't really know how to use it, but what else do I need in order to get there? Shannon?
I would say, well, selfishly, I run my whole business on Asana. So like I could not live without that thing. And it is my task management, my team management, my time management. And it keeps me honest because I forget everything. Even my director of operations says I'm like Dory from Finding Nemo. She's like, you tell Shannon something, she's Dory. She literally told you what to do. 3 hours will ask you why you're doing that. So, so Asana is insanely helpful for me to maintain those relationships like when I completely black out of what I told people to do. But anyway, the key things for scaling, I think, is really having a way to manage, again, team tasks and time, number one, because you have to keep control of all of that to know what's going on. But I would also say from like a systems perspective, not literally an application, I would say you want to have a really good grasp of your culture and core values, because I think that's going to drive who you want to work with and who you want to attract as clients, and also who you want to attract as team members. That's a big thing that we're pushing and we're encouraging clients to do, is get really clear on your goals and really clear on what it takes to get there and who needs to be in your corner to help support you. And just like putting that on paper and having a whole system to grow your network and to grow your team, and that you're finding the right people. Because I'll tell you, one of the biggest time and money sucks is hiring the wrong person every single time. Belinda's nodding. She's like, yes, it is worth the time to develop a system to hire the right person.
Thank you. What would you add to that, Linda?
I am nodding my head in unfortunate agreement, but we've been doing this for 16 years over here at Own Your Money, and we have hired many of the right people and many of the wrong people along the way, right? And it can take a long time to hire. I think it is one of those things that it's like hire slow, fire fast, when you realize that the person's not right, but that you have systems. So the ones that came to mind, one, a task management system of some kind. So Asana, we use ClickUp, Trello, like something, because there's a lot of moving pieces, like especially as you are doing more, as you are signing more clients, as you are charging more. I mean, one of the reasons why people don't want to charge more is because they're afraid that, like, can they live up to that, right? So if you have systems in place that onboard somebody the right way, in a streamlined, systemized way, then people can feel like, okay, I can go sell because I know I can take care of the client when I bring them in, right? So something to manage all those tasks. Something to manage a system or discipline to manage your own time. So I find that that's really important. So like I batch time. So I remember way back in the beginning, I used to just see clients whenever the heck they wanted to see me. I was just happy to have them as a client. And over time, what I came to realize is that it was just wreaking havoc on my schedule, on my life, on my own ability to focus, because there's a lot of time wasted and lost in what's called context switching, right? Where you're focusing on one thing and then you have to flip and focus on something else, and you have to flip and focus on something else. So now, like, we're very specific about when I see clients. It's usually only like an afternoon a week. And then we consolidated our group coaching program even. So our cash flow CEO program, and then our membership on the back end, same afternoon. So it was helpful because when I went through breast cancer like 18 months ago, I only had to work an afternoon a week. Like it's very freeing, to your point about like the disciplines and systems bring freedom, right? To know, like, I just had to show up then, and the rest I could take care of myself. I could do whatever I needed to do during that time, right? And I think when we have our time all willy-nilly and then we feel like we're just busy and we feel like we're overwhelmed, we are, because we're seeing a client Monday at 10 and then we're seeing a client Tuesday at 3, and then we're like, that is a rough way to live your life. So time, I think, is a really important thing. Ideally, I'd like to see people batch, block time, like see clients within certain windows of time, for instance, focus on content during certain windows of time, like sales calls or affiliate, collaboration calls, but blocking the time. And often a calendar system is really helpful to support this effort. So essentially what a calendar system can be, like we use Calendly or Acuity, or there's like several that are totally similar and can work. But basically what you can do is you can say to the calendar system, like, okay, I am available in these blocks for people to book. And then you just send them the link, and then they book it in, and you can schedule in reminders, and you can really automate some of those things that I think people spend a lot of time doing that they don't need to do. There was a third system that I thought of. SOPs. Like, I think that, so SOPs, right, is like standard operating procedure. And so it's sort of like the commitment that you're not just doing things haphazardly, but that you actually have a process for them. And I would say, even if you're the only person doing the process right now, create a process so that you can see a time in the future when this will be the last time that you do the thing, because you have somebody else that can do the thing. Right. But so often we feel like we have to be the one to do the thing. And no, as you continue to grow, we need to get you some support system, because those $10 tasks are not what's going to get you to that $1 million business, or even the $100,000 business oftentimes, right? We need to free you up of those admin tasks at some point so that you can be doing the higher profit, the more revenue generating activities.
So important. Yeah, because if you have SOPs, then you can save them. And when you're ready to hire somebody, then you can share them, and anybody can do the job that you're doing because it's all written down and detailed. And if you're like me, you could do a Loom video with it. And so there's a video and
a checklist
and written instruction on exactly how to do it.
Yeah. And it kind of gets to Shannon's point, right? Like about how expensive it can be when we hire the wrong person, but like we have to take ownership of training that person. And so if you have a commitment to having actual like systems and processes in the business for them to follow, it's a little meta, right? Because you would sort of ask, like, is there a particular system? But it's like a commitment to having systems so that you have an onboarding process. And I would say just start with the ones that you find yourself doing the most, like that you feel like are the most repetitive. Like I keep onboarding new clients. Great. Let me create a process for onboarding. You know, I keep booking in clients. Great. Let's have a process to book, you know, and then you can really look at how can I systemize it? How can I automate it? Right? How can I optimize it? But you can't do any of those things until you have the initial system. And then how can I delegate it usually at the end?
Yeah. Right. I love all of this. So we're at time, but I do want to end with, I want to go back to Shannon. We talked about this idea of a fractional CFO. Can you explain what that is? And so this last question for each of you is kind of three-part. I want to hear about that because not everybody knows what that is, but also how could we work with you? And I really believe that with finances, even if we have some sort of financial acumen, we really need help and support. It's like a coach getting a coach. Like we all need help and support because we can't see our blind spots. So what do you recommend just starting out? What kind of help should we get with our business, with our finances? And then as you hit, you know, multiple six figures and $1 million, like what does that look like? And then also how could we work with you if we're interested in learning more?
Okay, great. I'm going to answer like a little bit about like the different financial parties, and then Belinda later on, like if I forgot anybody. But I think that when you're first starting out, although it's tempting to do it all yourself, as soon as you feasibly can, you should hire a bookkeeper. But that does not need to be a monthly high dollar commitment. Let me explain that for a sec. That might be somebody coming in, checking your work every quarter. It might just be somebody supporting you, training you on how to use QuickBooks. It might be somebody who just spends a few hours a month and therefore it becomes more affordable. You can kind of set the scope based on your need. You don't always have to eat what's on the menu. You can order the kids' portion, okay? You can find out what they offer and say, hey, I'm a brand new business owner. I have less than 25 transactions a month. I'm really just getting started and I want to develop a relationship with a professional and I want you to grow with me. Would you be flexible in your pricing if you can be flexible on your scope so that just help me along the way so I know from day one I'm doing this correctly? I'm pretty sure every bookkeeper, like an angel gets their wings when they hear that, right? It's that whole idea of like, oh, the heavens open up and this is the perfect business owner, because it's about the attitude of wanting that help and to grow. So I would say that working with a bookkeeper as soon as you possibly can, just to start the relationship, whether it's a little bit or a lot. The next thing would be having somebody who can serve as your tax professional. And notice I say tax professional and not CPA or accountant. Tax professional is somebody who specializes in taxes that can help report the story you want to tell. And some even help co-author it through tax planning. A lot of people hire a tax preparer, which is a publisher. But when you go to a publisher, you already wrote the manuscript. So if you've already written the story, AKA you've already made decisions all year and you're bringing that to your tax preparer, you just hired a publisher. They're not changing the ending of the story. So you've already written it. So what you have to do is if you want the story to change, you have to hire a co-author. We call that somebody who does tax planning or a tax advisor. And I didn't say CPA or accountant because those are very general terms that mean anybody within the realm that studied this in school. There are a billion flavors of accountants and CPAs out there, and it's not as specific in terms of what problem they solve. So if you can be more specific about what problem you're trying to solve, you're going to get the right person. And then when you elevate beyond that from tax advisory and strategy, you get into financial strategy when you really want to scale and grow, and you really want to be in that just trajectory of, I want to earn so much that taxes don't matter, or I want to grow my team, or I want to achieve big, hairy, audacious goals. That's when we get into like the CFO, because there'll be a dedicated person to track your metrics, your key performance indicators or KPIs to help you reach those goals, and to be that person kind of in the proverbial boardroom sitting next to you that knows all the numbers and can help you turn them into decisions. So you're not expected ever in your business to master your numbers to a point where you can unilaterally make decisions based on numbers alone. You can expect that there will be an advisor by your side in some way, shape, or form, helping you interpret those numbers and using their experience and expertise from either other clients or working with you to help advise you on what could be coming down the road. So although you could be super savvy, it never hurts to have somebody by your side to help you. And that's what we do. We're fractional CFOs. So what we do is we will sit by your side, but we also have 7, 8, 9, 10 other clients just like you. And we're also doing the same thing for them. So we can borrow lessons from each other. And we can actually say, hey, this worked for this client and didn't work for this one. Not naming names, obviously, but we will use the insights that we gain to help serve you. So I kind of see that as the trajectory of who's helping you in your business as you go. But from day one, bookkeeper at a bare minimum, collect that data so somebody can help you turn it into decisions later.
I love that so much. I really loved how you pointed out that most people are going to the tax preparer and not the tax planner or advisor, and how important that tax planner or advisor is. Now, if someone's just getting started out, obviously your services for fractional CFO, maybe not for them quite yet, but not yet, right? We're just saying not yet, but you had a CFO on demand type program as well, right?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
So we noticed a big problem, which was a lot of people who need us really badly to help them with a financial strategy to hit that $1 million goal typically couldn't afford us until they already hit that $1 million goal. And I was like, wait, what the heck are we doing if the very people we want to serve can't afford our services? And the people who really need us, because the people who are already over $1 million that want to get to 3, 5, 10 million, we're helping them. But I said, you know what? How do we help people get to the $1 million so they have the choice to hire a fractional CFO? How can we serve them? And that's where we came up with CFO on demand. It's actually under $100 a month, and you get access to me and my team via message. You can actually message me your questions. You can bring your financial statements to a monthly call, and you can actually bring them to me and to my team and attend group trainings. This month, right now, we're actually going to be covering how to read your financial statements, but also what does good look like for my business? So not only can I read them and know what profit is, what do I want my profit to be? And that is a big gap right now, is I know what my profit is, but it's like reading my blood work. I'm like, okay, am I going to die? Am I healthy? What's going on? Like, what does this actually mean? And we're going to help decode your financials into what does good look like. So things like that we're doing every single month with entrepreneurs, and there's no minimum revenue to be in there. We really want to just help anyone who's trying to cross that 7-figure mark from 0 to $1 million, that just want that support, want access to me without having to pay the CFO price.
Wow, how awesome. So I'll make sure to link that in the show notes for everybody that can do that. And how to know what good looks like, will that be in February of 2024?
Yes, it will.
Yeah, so if people are listening to this real time, then they can hop on over to the show notes to look for that. What would you add to that, Belinda, at the different levels, the type of support that you would recommend? And then how can we connect more with you?
Yeah, sorry, Shannon, did you want to give how people can connect with you, or do you want to come back to that?
Oh, sure. I mean, in the show notes, they'll have all the links. CFO on demand is, by the way, 30 days free. If you join, you can do 30 days free. So there's absolutely there's no downside. Come try it. If you don't like it, it's okay, but nobody's really left yet after 30 days. So come on over, come join us, and see what it's all about. But yeah, everything's in the show notes. And also one more thing, Keep What You Earn is my podcast. So check out Keep What You Earn. We're all over everything Keep What You Earn. That's the Instagram handle. That's the podcast name, keepwhatyouearn.com. I absolutely love what we're doing over there. Much like Own Your Money, Belinda, we have that same mission, keep what you earn and own your money. It's perfect. So go right ahead.
I love it. I love it. I knew you had a podcast, so go listen to when I was on her podcast, right? Because I was like, I think we need to mention that, but I didn't want to put words in your mouth. So let's see. I think that the financial team is right on, right? In terms of having the bookkeeper, at least at a minimum, like do the separating. If you need to do it on a Google sheet, like do a Google sheet, but like make sure that it is thorough. I prefer also just to kind of have a bookkeeper, even if they're just quarterly reviewing what you're doing, so that you have a chart of accounts from the beginning that like makes sense and that is in like a helpful order and that kind of thing. So yes to the bookkeeper, yes to the tax professional. I love that analogy of not having it just be after the fact, right? Like publishing what you've already done. And I think that's where, when you have someone that isn't just there transactionally, right, to file your taxes, but you actually have a relationship with, so that you can say, hey, I'm doing really well this year, and I think our profit's going to be X. Do I need to be setting aside more money for taxes? Or, is there anything I can do to pay less taxes, right? But to have those proactive conversations, I think is really helpful. So a relationship with that tax professional is great. And then on the financial strategy side, I think that as you grow up, I like you having that fractional CFO once you're at that healthy 500K to 750 business. And until then, I want you to know how to do it, right? So that you understand your financial statement, so that you understand how to make smarter decisions based on your numbers. We teach you how to do that from a DIY standpoint, essentially, with our Cash Flow CEO program. I would love to invite those of you who are at that 50K and up level, and you feel like you're hitting this income ceiling, and you're like, I really know that I need a better grasp of my numbers, but it doesn't feel like my forte. Can you help me? Yes, we can. So Cash Flow CEO would be a great place to check out, but just as like an easy way to get started. So that's the answer to your team. I think that is the right financial team generally, for people to get started and to realize that they don't have to wait until they can afford the CFO to get financial strategy help. because it's often so hard. Like when we're in the box of our business, it's hard to read the writing on the outside, and just having an outside coach is super helpful. The challenge a lot of times, just a quick caveat, is that we feel like we're hiring business coaches that are actually marketing and visibility coaches. So just like go in eyes wide open, that like figure out what you really need, right? I look to be a business coach that actually helps you have a profitable business, right? And understand how understanding the money side of things can help you make that happen. Marketing and visibility coaches are great, but if you feel like, oh, I took this business coaching program and I still don't understand how to run a profitable business, you are not alone, right? That is, I think, how a lot of those programs are run. And just know that like you deserve that help as well, right? So that we can make sure that you have the right high profit offers, right? That you're really like doing the things that you need to do so that you can grow without the burnout. I think there's so many people who are just working too dang hard because they don't understand how to create more strategy. And that's really what I get really passionate about this, because I don't want everyone to like give up on their business or to feel like they have to sacrifice their family. And I think too, because I've been through this, I get extra passionate about it, right? But to be able to build their business out of intention, not just reaction, right? And they can be there for their family, and they can have the flexibility that they really want. So, and it is possible to grow without the burnout, but we do need to sell more strategically so that we don't have to work so hard, right? So that we actually like intentionally decide, what do I want to sell? Easy place to start with me in terms of keeping in touch and like getting started on this path. Don't have a podcast yet. You can find me over on her podcast, on these two podcasts, I guess, but is my Pay Yourself calculator. That's a really easy place, no matter where you are in your business. We have people who are at 0, 50K, 100K, and people are at 500K being like, yeah, why aren't I paying myself what I want? Oh, let me figure out what my revenue goal needs to be so that I can pay myself through the process. That's the Pay Yourself calculator. And then if you're listening to this real time, we do have an upcoming masterclass on high profit offers so that you can pay yourself a salary that actually funds your life. So we'll put the links for all of that. I'm big on Instagram. If anybody is listening to this or watching this, you put the video out there, tag me on Instagram and I will reshare it. Let's spread the wealth and have more and more people find out about Carmen's roundtables. This has been so fun.
This has been so fun. Yes, let's spread the wealth. And with the knowledge that you two shared today, I know that people are jumping leaps and bounds with their finances. And for me, one of the biggest mindset shifts was I don't need to know it all. And asking for help and getting the help that I need with my finances is what finally, like getting past that I have to ask for help and being okay with it, has just like ripped that wide open to be able to make more and more. And it starts with all the things that you talked about, and the planning and the right offers and the strategy and the culture and the team, and every piece of it, I know will get people to their first million if they follow it. So thank you so much for being a part of the Roundtable on the Permission Slip podcast. And I can't wait for people to connect with you more in the future.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.